What's up, Flip Factor family? It's Michael Green with the Flip Factor podcast, the #1 podcast dedicated to teaching you how to flip less houses, make more money, so you have the freedom to do whatever the F you want. Today, we're going to be talking about how Robert Taylor, one of my students, made $75K on using a smart scheme, and he is going to share the details of how that all went down. Robert, welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning. How you doing, Mike?
Good, man. Hey, thanks for coming on. I know you got some cool stuff you're going to share today, and I'm really proud of that one house. Robert ended up making about $75K on it. It was just a flip. Came from a wholesaler, right?
Yes, came from a wholesaler.
Yes, because you can't make money with wholesalers anymore. That's what I've heard. Yeah, who's that, though? When you say they, I'm wondering, is that just the general public?
Most of the time. I mean, everybody see that. I picked up last year probably a good 5 or 6 deals from wholesalers. It was really good. It worked out for me, so it's still been working out.
Yeah, dude, it's you can crush anything if you just figure it out. Now, is it easy? Nope. You got to do some stuff, right? You got to get some advantages if you're going to be working with wholesalers. So I know MLS wholesalers have treated me really well over the years. So I'm totally pumped and will never stop doing it, and probably will never accept if I feel like it's not working. I'm probably just going to decide not to accept that and just keep hacking it until it works, because I don't want to miss out. There's opportunity, man. I've made some good money also with some wholesale deals. Now, are there some bad ones out there? Heck yeah. So you got to learn how to filter through them and get through them quickly. So Robert, before we jump into the content, I'm going to do a quick announcement so that way we can get that in. Don't forget about it. I'll keep it super quick so we can get right back and jump right in with Robert and some cool stuff. So very quickly, I just want to tell everyone who's listening, we have a real estate group that on Facebook that a lot of us share. Robert's part of that group. A bunch of people are on there. Got about 800 people. They're flipping houses, communicating, sharing with the group, new cool concepts, ideas. I usually am on there about 3 days a week, just giving value. I would love anyone who's listening to the show to join, because it's nothing like I don't have anything to sell in there. It's a completely free group. Literally, I just want to invite you because I know there's probably some value that you can give and that we can give to you in return. And that is what the group's all about. It's a community supporting each other. And it's just met some really great people in that group. The name of the group, by the way, I think I was keeping that a mystery, Robert. Hold on, let me make sure I tell them. The name of the group is the Real Estate Flip Factor 10X Facebook group. Real Estate Flip Factor 10X. Like, we're ready to 10X it up and get it all good. Also, if anybody'd like to work with me to scale your business and start, really crushing it, flipping houses, feel free to send me an email at mike@theflipfactor.net. Now that's over. That was quick and painless. Let's jump right into Robert's story. My first question for you, Robert, is tell me a little bit about yourself, first of all, and how you got into business.
So I've been into real estate now for about 3 years. It started a couple years back. Me and my wife would be up late watching the Flip the House shows on HGTV. We would always have all these discussions on like what we would do to the properties if we ever had one. And it just kind of kept on building and building over time. So that's kind of how I got my first initial into like looking into real estate. My wife actually heard something on the radio. I believe it was, I can't remember. I think the flipping. It had to be. It was like Flipping Vegas guy, right?
Yep.
So he had a thing on the radio. It was like a free seminar. You come out, they give you free tickets. So my wife actually went on there and signed up for me.
Okay.
Got me free tickets. She was like, well, you can go with your best friend to the meeting. And I told her, I said, hey, if I go to this meeting, I want you to go with me, because when I start taking some money out the bank account to invest, I need you to be on board on what's happening. So she went to the first meetup with me. Typical meetup, they get you with the free one first. Then you get all juiced up and they say, hey, come for a 3-day weekend, $700. We go to the $300 the weekend, the 3-day weekend. And then, get us all juiced up, get us to like get our credit cards extended, get more money on our credit cards and all this craziness. They selling you the juice and you feeling all good. Then they hit you with the big stamp. Hey, for $35,000, we'll coach you and take the whole process. And the reality is that for me, we were actually so juiced up and like, man, this could change our life if we just invest this money and put it out there. And like, we were like right about to sign on the dotted line.
Okay.
And then I just had a thought. I said, well, hey, instead of just taking this $35,000, giving it to somebody that's out of town, out of state, they wasn't even in our state. They were coming down like once a quarter or something. They're supposed to coach you do that. I said, let's just take the $30,000 and invest it in ourselves and see what happened with a flip. So that was the beginning. And
dude, that's awesome, man. So I've been down the same journey. I will not say that I came out as smart as you. I definitely signed up and spent the money. My first coach, funny enough, I've actually signed up. My first coach was $15K, and then I've signed up with some other $30K coaches after. But I will say that I love the way your perspective on it is that not everyone needs a coach or needs that help. But not all coaches out there are really equal. I mean, I don't know if anybody's ever watched Flipping Vegas, but I don't feel like they're ever on budget. They want to punch each other in the face. And I'm thinking like, yeah, that's who I want to be my coach. The the person who never gets it right and has a completely dramatic show. And I've had a couple students who actually did some stuff with them, and yeah, they kind of fleeced them, to be honest. They, not to talk bad about that show or anyone in general, it's just what the coaching industry is, and it's something that I've really have hated for a long time. It's one of the reasons I never was like resistant to becoming a coach, because I just didn't want to be like that. Now, when I decided I was going to coach and give back to the community, I was like, if I'm going to do it, I got to do it in a big way, and it's got to be really different. And, it's got to be more specific and tight niche, not like this big guru thing, get my stuff, I hope it works out after you've spent $35K of your life savings. So in our group, it's much cheaper, first of all. Like, I mean, it's $6K for what they're charging $35K, and we guaranteed results. Like, we don't bring people in. If they don't make money, we stick with them.
Yeah, that was one of the things for me. I was like, it wasn't about the money of the $30,000. If you in this business, I'm sure from all the houses you flip, you can make a lot of money. You can make that 30,000 10 times over if you get the right systems and routines in place. It was more so that they were not local. It was like, well, how can you tell me about Baltimore and you're in Vegas or whatever they were from, right? It's about having that local connection, somebody that if you run into an issue that you can reach out to and talk to help guide you do that. I figured I would need more of that in the beginning. That just wasn't, that's not what the system was set up to do. So
dude, it ended up working out for you really well. So I'm glad to hear that, obviously, because that's a huge thing, right? So I'm glad it worked out super well for you. And you found, we're coaching together now. So you believe in coaching or working, and I'm not really. And I think I told someone this the other day. I'm kind of going against, I don't know if I'm actually a coach. The main thing, what I feel like I do is what my guy did for me. 3.5 years, my life was changed is when I had a guy come into my business to help me fix stuff. And he wasn't really a coach. He kind of was like doing stuff with me. And that's what I'm kind of doing with my people, because it's what works. Like, when someone's willing to build stuff with you is what works. When they kind of just say, here's a book and read it, and then I'll get on a call with you every week and kind of tell you the same stuff you just read, it doesn't really do much for you. I don't know. I mean, for me personally, but I know that's worked for some, but it's not done a lot for me. And I had about 7 years where I was doing all kind of crazy coaching. Tell me a little bit about what you think your biggest obstacle that you've had to face so far as a house flipper.
All right. The biggest obstacle was dealing with contractors for me in the beginning. And it actually started with my first deal. I got my first house after like a year of searching for a property. I get my first house. My realtor refers me a contractor, so I end up using this contractor. No contract, no plan really, just more so came up with a budget, agreed to the number, and then that was it. So did the first house. We get halfway through the job. We kind of moving along through the project. We were at the point where we were roughing. So for those who don't know, we had plumbing and electrical in there, but no walls were up in the house. And this is my first flip. So then I get a call like one Friday from like the guys on the job. They say, hey, contractor X didn't show up to pay us.
Ooh.
And I paid him last week. And I was taught that, well, my thought from learning from like kind of going to meetups and hearing what everybody else was doing, is like, oh, you give these like $10,000 deposits to the contractor. They always stay in front of you on the job. That just was the normal way it was done. So that's kind of what I did. So I paid this guy like, at this point, about $25,000 and of the $50,000 budget. And we don't even have walls up yet. I remember when it came to the HVAC system, now that I think back on it, he was like, yeah, they put in the ductwork. And he was like, oh, yeah, we had $6,500 in for the whole HVAC system.
Oh, no.
Said, well, you got to write me a check for the $6,500. I'm like, well, you only got the ducts in. He was like, well, this is just how it works. You write the check for the $6,500. I'm like, okay, I don't know. Okay. So I give him the whole, I don't have a unit, no nothing, just the ductwork there, so. Long story short, I go down to the house and talk to the guys. I'm like, hey, I paid him last week. I'm calling him on the phone. He won't answer the phone. He won't nothing. And they say, yeah, he had us on a two-week schedule. So he paid his workers every 2 weeks. It's like 6 guys. So I said, well, how much he owe you guys? $6,000.
Oh, no.
And I already paid him, right? So at this point, I'm at a crossroad. I'm like, wow, I don't want to pay an extra $6,000. But if I don't pay these guys, I don't have anybody to finish the house out. I don't even know what to do, how to close up walls, anything at that point. So I end up, just deciding to pay them the $6,000 to stay on the job. And then I just kind of GC'd to myself. I had a friend that was flipping houses as well that kind of helped me out and gave me some direction on how to get through the project. But mostly I'm just kind of trial and error. So I finished the house probably, it's a townhouse. It took, I think it was 8 months. I'm into this townhouse on the renovation.
Oh, wow.
7 months on the renovation. I get it on the market. I did a pretty good job with it. The product looked pretty good. We get it on the market. I get a contract in like 7 days. The contract comes 7 days. It was an FHA loan, take 60 days to close. We get to like 50 days into the deal. Something pops up on the person's credit. They can't close.
Oh, no.
So So I'm like, oh my goodness. Like at this point, I'm kind of like stretched, right? So we get another contract, went back on the market for like 3 or 4 days. So got another contract. Went like 30 days into that contract and it fell due.
Oh man, you
And I
had tough.
remember when my agent called me, he said he had never seen it before. He's like, I've seen people fall out of contract once, but not 2 times. Like, so it went back on the market. This time it set a little bit for about maybe a month and a half. And then I got the third contract. So by the time I closed, I had a year loan on my project. So I had to get an extension to my year loan. I'm like at 13, 14 months. Needless to say, I'm probably, I wasn't good at calculating it back then. So I'm sure I was losing money at this point. By the way, halfway through it, because I didn't know any better, I went and bought another house thinking, oh, this check is coming. And the check never came until like 6 months, 7 months later. I was almost done on my first flip, but it worked out and I was able to navigate. So
it says so much about you too, because I can tell you most people have that experience on flip one and there is no flip two.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I already had a flip two. I actually bought it once I got it on the market. I'm like, yeah, I had some more money. I said, I'm gonna go buy my next flip. People told me not to do that, but I'm a little hard-headed sometimes. So.
Well, are you glad you did it now? Because if you didn't have flip two, you didn't have to finish flip two. You might have had a little lull there. You might have been like, I need a little break from this. Because I can tell you, my first flip was rough. It wasn't as rough as yours, but it took me like 4 months, and I was in the house. I was putting a lot of hours in it. Like I was sometimes getting off work early. I wasn't working full days, and I was probably putting like 40 hours a week into my flip for 4 months because I was in there doing stuff I should have been doing, like doing work, going to Home Depot. I wasn't being a GC. I was almost being like a worker. I mean, I was literally like almost working in the house, which is crazy. I mean, I got some experience from it, but at the same time, man, what a headache. And I needed a break. I took like a month or two off when I was done rehab one. I was like, I need to think through this a little bit and figure out a way to improve it. And then flip two went a lot better. And I don't know, how did your flip two? Did you have a better result on flip two?
I definitely hit it in time schedule. Made what I thought I was going to make on the property. So, I was able to see some cash flow from that. So it really was good. But I mean, I learned a lot of lessons on my first one. It was like trusting contractors, having your plan, having a routine. I still didn't learn to stay in front of the money. I think I didn't learn it till later until I met you a little bit with your process on how to kind of manage the contractors a little differently. But I definitely learned like what to look for. And I still, at this point, I didn't have any experience in construction. At that time, I was working corporate America for McDonald's Corporation. And I'm getting off of work and I'm going to check on the job and I'm working the weekends. Yeah. To your point, I'm going to Home Depot, loading up the truck. My wife fussing me up because I'm putting stuff in her truck, scratching it up, doing everything I could do. Yeah. To get this thing done. And truth be told, on a serious note, that project really almost broke me. Like, it really, the first one, it's tough. You put 30, 40, at that time I had to put I think I was like 40, 45,000 into the project.
Yeah.
My money, and that was the issue. So
yeah, project one, did you end up breaking even, making money, losing a little bit of money?
I end up breaking even. I didn't make any profit. So, I think I probably might have made $1,000 on that project.
Nothing worth talking about. Nothing. Yeah. I mean, and honestly, breaking even was probably like, you were probably happy about that because that didn't go well. So like, you bought a house right when you do everything wrong and you bust every timeline, every budget, you overpay people, got to pay an extra $6,000 and you still break even. Yeah. Like that is the safety net we get when we do our job right on the front side. Like we can make tons of mistakes. And everybody's always like, Mike, I don't want to invest $100,000 into a flip because what if I lose it all? I'm like, there's really not a scenario where you lose it all. Like that I know of, because houses are all, you can go move in it, you could rent it. There's always something you can do at a home. It is a tangible asset. So it's not like a stock that could just go to zero. It's not like, money you could invest in a company that could just go out of business and you don't ever get it back. I mean, house flipping, you're always going to be left with the house and the house is always going to have some value. So there's not really a scenario like if you invest 100, you'd lose the whole 100. Now, could you lose 10, 20, 30K for sure? I've seen that happen, especially if you're overpaying. But if you're buying it right, you pretty much are guaranteeing that you're not going to really have a big losing event unless you just make some poor choices.
Absolutely. So, just kind of networking and going to all the different forums and reading stuff prior to doing that first flip. I had a whole year while I was looking for a deal, so I was just hooking up. I purchased that one for $45,000. I ended up selling it for $150,000. So, I mean, it was definitely, I probably think I was supposed to make like $21,000 profit. So, that got eaten up real quick. and,
Yeah. Well, real slow, actually. If it took you a year, it got eaten up slowly. You know what? It was all good, man. You were there. And, honestly, I'm never unhappy if I break even. I make a ton of mistakes. I just learn from and move on. So it's cool you did the same. You stuck with it, because I know how tough that is. So let's talk a little bit about your house that you just recently did, because that's house one. Now, do you know what house this is? Are you counting?
Now this is house 23. So
23, sweet. So that's a really big jump. So house one, all right, we don't want to flip houses that way. Robert's pretty convinced, like, no, I don't want to do that no more. That sucks. Let's talk about house 23 and how that went. A little bit like where you bought it from. You said wholesaler, right? And pick the numbers, whatever you want to share that you feel comfortable with.
absolutely. So just recently did a property in the Ashburton area. Picked it up for $100,000 from a wholesaler. I believe the wholesaler got it from a probate deal, because they ended up making $50K on the wholesale deal. So they got it on a contract for $50. I bought it. I found it out at the pay for it.
That is awesome.
$50,000. So, but it still worked at 100. Originally, I thought the ARV was going to be around 290. And my renovation budget was 90. I ended up coming in at 95 on the renovation budget. So, purchased for 195 on a rehab, and end up selling it for $320,000. So.
Sweet. Net profit like 75K roughly, right?
74K, 74,675. So.
Yeah, we'll round it up, man.
We'll round it up. 75. That works.
Dude, so that's a great profit. And so tell me a little bit about what you think the one tip is that you use to get, like, I mean, how much over list? You were thinking 290 originally. And you ended up selling.
So it's like $30,000 more than I initially planned. So, some of the things that we talked about as well, and what happened is with this property, I noticed the comps, by the time I finished it, the comps have risen up a little bit to about 305, 310 range, where I could have listed it at. So I ended up listing it less than that for 290, 295, I think we listed it for, and which caused us to get multiple offers. So we had, a couple of different offers come in, several showings, and then a couple offers in the first 10 days property was on the market. So that's always a good spot to be in, that we want to try to get to, is that way we can get multiple offers. Because then we can do what the banks do and go back and ask for highest and best. So, and also the same thing like you teach, I know in the group, you talk about it a lot, about, creating that demand for your property that can kind of drive the number up, learning from the banks. So that was able to happen. So we ended up getting multiple offers. My agent, worked with the different agents and kind of asking them for requests for highest and best. Funny story is that, I don't know how much you want me to share, but, the numbers,
share it on.
We got multiple offers, but nobody was as close to $320,000. Everybody else was like 305, or asking price 300,000. But the fact that we had multiple offers and we asked for highest and best, it made the person decide to give out their best shot, which was $320,000, which was $30,000 more than I originally expected it to be for that property. So that was really great.
It's a big chunk of how you got in there too. And I know Robert shared with me too that on this particular house that he really took the design up a level, really worked on his layout, made things a little more custom in the house. And what I believe happens there, and me and him actually talk about this all the time, is that, and this is something that's been working for me for a long time, and part of my success with flipping has been that every house has to be able to create an emotional event for the buyer. And if they get super emotional, like, I'm going to live in this house, it's easy for us to allow them to negotiate themselves up to what we would say the highest number that they're willing to pay. We never want anybody to overpay, and people often won't overpay. We don't want that. We just know that if someone could pay $320 instead of $310 and they're totally willing to do $320, that isn't in our best interest to make sure we get the most out of them as part of our negotiation. Well, tough to do that if it's a logical negotiation. Like if they're like, logically, this house only worth $310 to me, but emotionally, I'll pay $320. So we always want to get them on that emotional side. Robert put together a really nice house. He got some help from a designer, and some cool people came in and gave him some advice, and he really stepped it up, and it was some cool stuff went on in there. And he spent about additional $5K on it, roughly, he told me, which is cool. $5K to get an extra 30 is always solid.
Yeah. I mean, to that point. So typically I'll pick out everything from my own designs for my properties. And in this case, I had a friend who's also a rehabber. She does very good work on her houses, and she really knew that area of Ashburton, and it was a certain feel for that neighborhood that she just had a key for and a knack for. I reached out to her and said, hey, and actually, on this project, would you mind being a design person for me just to make sure I get it right, and, also so I can get the highest value for the property. So she agreed, and she did the design on me. We did some different things in terms of like a feature wood wall coming up the steps. She did some really nice light fixtures in there. The tile work all was custom. But at the same time, for me, I like to stay close to budget. So I worked with her, and we worked together on trying to find the best balance between the two without going too far. and
Yeah.
set the budget up so much. So to your point, I ended up spending probably about an extra $5,000, but it netted an extra $30,000. So in the long run, I'll take that any day.
Yeah, for sure. We call it SWOMO, right? Which is selling with multiple offers. We put things in the home that's going to make it sell with multiple offers because it's going to go from a logical transaction to an emotional one. You're going to win, man. And Robert's thing was he said he put in a wood wall, right? He took a wall, put some like wood trim on it, painted a different color. I've seen pictures. It was awesome. I know you guys are listening. I want to be descriptive so you can understand what he did. He took like a wall, put some wood trim and just decorated it. It was very cool, like squares and a little darker gray color. He also did some like a tray ceiling, but like not the crazy tray ceilings you see. And he just literally around like the chandelier in the dining room just put a little bit of trace like trim around it. It looked like something you'd pay about $150 to do.
Yeah.
Nice backsplash. It was super nice backsplash. What else? Make sure I'm not really custom tile in the bathroom.
Shiplap above the fireplace. So shiplap is actually pretty cheap to do. You get it from Home Depot. I think it costs probably $150 for the wood. And you paint it, but it gives it a different feel to it over the fireplace, and just painted the brick a certain gray. We also did the different color doors. So we did like a light gray on the wall and a darker gray on the doors. I know that's something that you like to do a lot too, Mike.
Yeah.
So that, I think it makes it look more custom. So that worked out. And then like you said about the backsplash in the kitchen, we did the range hood over top of the stove instead of a microwave, which we still had a microwave, but we just moved it to a different area. But the range hood from Amazon costs $170, but it gives it a higher end feel to it. So some of those things there that I think that really worked out.
Yeah, we started doing the range hoods about 4 or 5 years ago, and we've never stopped. Now we only do the range hood when we can get a microwave somewhere else, because some of the kitchens are big enough to do both. And we were doing it without the microwave for a while, and I don't know if it's like that valuable if you lose the built-in microwave. So we've been going back to that. But yeah, just being thoughtful. So I think like to summarize what Robert's really saying and kind of giving to the listeners and the family out there, basically just be thoughtful of your renovation, be thoughtful of your layout, be thoughtful of like how do you make this thing look top notch without blowing the budget. I've had some friend of mine a long time ago was like, I'm putting Italian marble, and I'm like, dude, you don't need to put Italian marble. It was like $11 a foot he put in the house. He ended up losing like $40,000 on that deal. He just did that throughout the whole house and was just completely ego driven, like, wanted it to be super nice. I'm thinking like, who knows if it's Italian marble or it's marble from wherever's cheaper. I don't even know where it would be cheaper, but it all looks the same, like, come on, it all looks the same, especially in a flip, by the way. People are they'd be really happy you just have marble. They don't necessarily have to be Italian marble, which costs twice as much. Yeah, that's what the key is, man.
Another thing, Mike, I think is a point that I'm noticing. Staging is so important when you're rehabbing a house. The lady who did the design for me also did the staging. She has a staging company. She does very high-end staging, and it looks very unique pieces that's in the house. I think that really helped to drive the sale of the house up as well. And for, let's just say if you're paying $2,000 for staging, whatever you pay, it's well worth it if it sells your house quicker, and it also makes people feel invited when they walk in the door. So I think it really came together.
Yeah, Robert's actually the president of Staging Houses America now. So he believes in it. Like, I'm totally sold. I stage every house. I don't care what neighborhood it's in. But what I haven't thought of, I've been doing staging, the cheaper staging, about $1,000. And when I seen Robert's house, I was like, dude, that thing looked legit for the extra $800. It was totally worth it. Really, really worth the money for sure. Because she did a great job on it. And you definitely got a lot of value from it. So Robert is always like, I feel like whenever I tell people about Robert, I'm like, hey, I work with a student and here's some cool about him. I'm like, yeah, he worked at McDonald's and now he's flipping a bunch of houses every year. It's always funny because they're like, really? And I'm like, I always have to say afterwards, like, he was in leadership. He wasn't like the dude behind the counter. Like, I mean, imagine one day you started, right? Did you start it behind the counter? Yeah. But okay.
So I started at McDonald's as a crew person. So I've done every job in the store, clean bathrooms, clean off the grill, everything. And I worked through different positions with the company, and end up, when I left, I was project manager officer for the company. So for like 1,200 stores, I'm rolling out different products. But yeah, I mean, I learned a lot of the things that kind of can transfer over to what I do in real estate. On top of that, the business piece of it, working with owner operators that own McDonald's and how they set up their business and how they move forward. So, taught me some lessons that I can definitely use in my business moving forward. So, but yeah, McDonald's. They used to call me Calvin.
Yeah, that's funny, dude. So you had a really big event happen just a few months ago, and I was excited. I know you were a little nervous and excited, like everyone always is. But you quit your job. How long were you at McDonald's? Like 15 years, 20 years?
23 years.
23 years, and you
23 years at McDonald's. We like, as a saying at McDonald's, catch up in your veins. So I still have some of that. left over. But yeah, I made the leap in, March of this year, March 15th, exactly, into this rehab thing. I had been doing it for like 2.5 years at that point. I felt confident in some of the systems and routines. Some of them I learned from you as well. In the mastermind group. We didn't get a chance to touch on it earlier, but I think I'm more control of my projects in terms of one of the things I told you my number one issue was dealing with contractors. So one of the systems I learned from Mike is how to, he said this to me the first time I told him, like, hey, I'm having issues with contractors. He said, what are you doing? I said, well, when I start the job, I give them $10,000, $15,000. Mike said, okay. He said, so when you go to work, do they pay you first before you start working? And I'm like, I had to think about it. Like, no, they don't pay me first. I got to work like 2 weeks or whatever before I get a paycheck. That little change right there, I think, was a big change in my business, because what I noticed what happened is I would give contractors these big deposits and money up front. And then they would get to the end of the job and it would start to slow down. And the main reason that happens is because they run out of money. So you give them $10,000, $15,000 in the beginning, they use it on a different project. Next thing you know, you start your project, you got 4 guys, 5 guys working in the house. By the time you get to month 2, it's like 2 guys in the house. Next thing you know, you come as 1 guy in the house, and your project just slowed down, and would just take extra 2 months or 3 months to finish my jobs.
Yeah.
So that change right there was a big difference. Now I pay labor only. I purchase my own materials, so I can get the discount at the Home Depot, Lowe's, or wherever you want to shop at for me versus the contractor. And it also keeps me in front of the contractor. So it makes them work towards something. So if you did framing this week, if framing is not completed, you're not getting paid, which is going to make you want to get it done by Friday so you can get paid. So versus the other way. So that was a huge change in my business. And I thank you for that, Mike, for teaching me that lesson.
No, you're welcome, man. It's such a big one for me too. Major shift for me in my life. And I'll tell you, like, people follow the money. So as soon as they've got the money and effectively you don't have it, then they're not following you anymore. So as long as you got the money and you can pay them for work, then the way I look at it is if they don't want to do it, someone else will do it. As long as you got the money in hand, you can either get them to do it or someone else. And you're really doing them such a big favor by not paying them money up front. They asked for it and they kind of even demanded it at some level, but you are doing them such a disservice. They're not good with money. Most think about, if anyone would ever think about, like, who's someone I want to think about who's good with money, right? I'm thinking of like Charles Schwab, right? I'm thinking of the bank, maybe a bank teller or some, an accountant I would think would be good with money. But I think on that list, like the last person on that list of like 6,000 people I could pick would be a contractor. It's probably one person that's worse than a contractor. It would be like a crackhead. So guys, like, I really honestly, I'm not saying contractors are crackheads. So there ain't contractors out there. Don't be like, Mike, you called us crackheads. But you guys aren't known for being good with money. And it's unfair for me to give you a bunch of money and then hope you manage it well. With that being said, man, I'm totally not giving them any money, and I'm just going to manage the process, and that's the way it is. So that's been my big shift too, man. Stop paying them and start controlling. Because what I've realized is you can't really manage people, but you got to manage a process. And when you create a process, then you manage how people work within that process, then you're just managing the process. So part of our process is not paying those people up front. And when contractors want to come into our world, it's like, here's how we do business. You want to do it this way? Perfect. If not, we understand. But this is how we do business. And eventually the right people are totally willing to work with you. You'll find that you have less turnover too when you get this together.
Yeah. And it keeps them on track. And I noticed that the people I'm working with now, they seem happy to kind of work because, one, they don't get to that point where they're stressing out because they didn't use up all the money. You kind of help them out as well. And then the big thing that was able to do on top of some other things that I've learned with dealing with the contractors is that focusing on timelines too, and the timeline and meaning in terms of getting projects done quicker. So on average before, for a townhouse, it was taking like 3 to 4 months to complete, right? For a single family house, we were running like 5 to 6 months, maybe even 7 to 8 in some cases before. And I remember we had a conversation about that as well, about, hey, how long are you taking to do your projects? And you kind of telling me how long it's taking to do your projects. And you were finishing like single family houses in 8 weeks or so on. And my projects were like 2 months longer, which cost me more money, which cost the contractor more money as well to keep more people on the job and things like that. I remember the first time after I kind of heard we talked about that, and I went back to my friends and I said, hey, so I have a couple of friends that do rehabs. And I said, well, look, why can't we flip a townhouse in 2 months? And they was like, well, you can't do it in 2 months. It takes like 3, 4 months to do it. That's not going to work. You can't sell it at that point anyway, yada, yada, because of the FHA rules. Yeah. I said, well, why can't we do it? And they didn't really have a clear answer on why we could not do it, right? So I said to them, well, all right, I'm going to flip this townhouse in 2 months. They're like, okay, whatever you say. I went there and I just changed it. I changed the approach. Instead of having, a lot of times in the project, you'll have people working in the inside, and then they'll finish everything on the inside, then they start working on the outside, which takes more time. So what I did was have the people that were working on the inside just focus on the job on the inside, and I had somebody else do the exterior work that need to be done, like a roof or whatever case may be. So while they're working on the inside at the same time, I have somebody working on the outside, which cut back some of the time frame. And then also just making your people aware of how fast you want to get the project done and holding them to the target and the timelines made a difference. So we were able to finish that house in 2 months. You know, it's the quickest house I ever did, that townhouse in 2 months. And then I just kind of transferred that over to my other projects, the single family homes and et cetera. So from there, I was able to, after my second year, I was averaging about 5 to 6 deals a year. And then right now into, this is June of 2019, I'm already on my 13th project. So, you know, we're trending to probably do about 19 to 20 projects this year. I mean, we stay on the pace that we are. And my goal was 14, so I'm kind of ahead of that, so which is a good thing. But it goes back to a lot of those systems and routines with the people that we talk about in the groups, that we also talk about in the mastermind, Mike. And again, thanks for that help with those projects.
No problem, man. And you know what I love about Robert, what he's doing is that, like, it doesn't matter if he does 20, he does 10, but he is making great profits on his flips. So I don't ever believe in doing a lot more flips unless you're currently crushing the ones you're doing. So if you're doing 5 a year and you're making like epic profits on them, 30, 40K, then that's a repeatable business. But when I see people do too many times, and I actually learned this from McDonald's because a friend of mine was trying to talk me into buying a McDonald's many years ago. Actually just texted me. I ain't heard from him in years. I just seen a text come up on my phone. But the thing was, he talked about how McDonald's wouldn't allow you to start having 10 locations until you can get one location right? You had to be in excellence. You had to know what you were doing, and you should treat your flipping business the exact same way. If you can't flip one house on time, on budget, get it sold quick and have control over it, then you should just keep flipping one at a time until you get it right. And then you flip 2 at a time, 3 at a time. When you start to go 3 at a time, it starts to fail. Then you slow up and get it right. Stay at 3 at a time until, you know, you never scale your business until you literally are getting right what you're currently doing, because scaling up volume will only cost you to make less money if you ain't doing it right. But if you're doing it really well, then obviously it's just going to naturally scale itself. Because everyone's always asked me, like, Mike, how do you scale your flipping business? Because I've scaled a few to like 150 a year, but my 150 year business, 150 deal a year business is not one I'm even proud of. I mean, it sounded good on paper, but the one I'm the most proud of, like my best year in flipping ever, 41 houses versus 150. And I made double the income doing 41 houses than I made on 150. Plus that particular year, I only worked 15 hours a week and I traveled 21 times. Like I went on 21 vacations that same year. And I'm telling you, I haven't been on, like, the 10 years before that, I probably didn't go on 21 vacations. So in that 1 year, I was able to change my life, you know, go out of the country, do different cool things, and flip 41 houses and just have a great lifestyle with it. So I realized that and all why my income was increasing, my people were happy, which was a really big thing. At 150, I would say that overall my people weren't happy. You know, they you know, I had a lot of people I was pushing hard and nobody was really, you know, reaching their purpose. But at 41, I was able to even give back to my people in a big way and make sure they were having a good environment and everybody was happy and doing cool things. So anyhow, I'm real big on making sure profits matter. And Robert's stuff's been hitting the profit. So keep scaling it, man. It'll just happen, you know, and if it all starts to get a little weird, then you slow it up and get it right and go right back to the drawing board.
And that's the thing I love about this business, is that we have the option to do that, right? It's definitely, you can make some good profit on these projects, which allows you to make those decisions. Say, hey, you know what? If I want to shut down and slow down on some projects, I don't have to worry about if the income's coming in, because I've done well on that walk, but you know, so far this year. So it definitely helps out. But yeah, I don't think I want to get to a place, and I haven't decided at this point to be like 150 flips. I don't think everybody I hear that talks about that seems like it's not the greatest thing to do, but you know, just balance and averaging probably about 20 flips a year will probably be where my goal would be to grow to, which would put me in a good place, you know, financially.
Yeah. You can make a ton of income doing 25 flips a year if you're averaging 40K and you don't have a bunch of employees, you don't have a bunch of marketing. You can crush it. I mean, you only need to do 5-10 years of that. You should be able to like just retire if you don't want to do it anymore. Like financially, you should have tons of money. So how are you celebrating your 75K win? What's the celebration?
Yeah, so one thing I do is that with the families, every time I flip a house, I take the family out. You know, so we just came back from Disney World 2-3 weeks ago. The girls wanted to go out there.
Nice.
And then I typically, for my daughters, because sometimes you're out late, or, you know, not most of the time I'm not out late, but sometimes you are. So for them to stay involved in it and look forward to the flips getting done, So I typically put like, $400 in there, saving account for each one of my daughters, just to kind of say, hey, this is your gift. I'll give them $100 themselves and put 3 in their account actually, so they can do what they want to do with the $100. So they get excited for the next flip to be finished because they're like, hey, I'm going to get $100. They can go out and buy something.
They're going to be wealthy, man. If you keep the volume up, they're going to be pretty wealthy by the time they're pretty young, right?
Yeah, 12 and 13. So they could definitely find some money. A lot of times they keep it. They're very, very slick with their money. What they do is they keep it and they save it, right? And then we go out and they say, oh, I left my money in the house. Dad, can you pay for that?
They're learning way too early, man.
I'll pay you back when we get home, Dad, and I never get this money back. Like
the money never comes back. Giving kids money is like basically you need like to have them sign some kind of like 7-page promissory note in order you're going to get it back, and you still wouldn't get it even then. But that's what happens.
So it's all good. But my wife get to take on the trip. We actually going to Cabo, St. Lucas in July celebration. 10-year anniversary / celebrating deal. So good stuff.
See, that's what it's all about. I mean, I love so much that as house flippers, we have the ability to just travel, do some stuff, live the life we want to live, create some freedom. Robert and I are talking through our 3-day deal finding event, focusing on convincing him to cut his hours in half. We'll see how that goes, but he was definitely open to it, and he was hearing it because I made a great case, right? Did I not make a good case?
It was a really good case. I mean, he said, we go from working 40 hours a week to working 20 hours a week. So how can I run my same business with only working 20 hours a week? And I'm like, how am I going to do that? But to the point I think Mike talked about is that when you set deadlines or goals or time frame, if you ever have a boss at work and they say, hey, we need to get this project done, it got pushed up, we got to finish it in the next 3 days, it typically takes 2 weeks. You find a way to figure out and get it done. And that's kind of, I know you know a little bit more. You probably can speak to that, Mike, but because we haven't really gotten to it yet. But I think that was the basics of it, right?
Yeah, for sure. We will take a job and we will we'll make it take as long as it needs to take to fill the time we've allowed for it. So we allowed 8 hours, we'll get it done in 8 hours. We rarely ever just be like, do it in 2, because we'll figure out how to make it more complex so it'll take the 8 hours. We fill the time that's given to do a job. So if we only get 2 hours, then guess what? We're going to definitely have a skeleton version of that job done, but we'll get it done in 2 hours. And often we find that the skeleton version of the job at 2 hours is really just as productive as the 8-hour version. But one just takes 4 times as long. And that represents in a really big way in your business, more hours you're working, more people you have to hire to leverage and do these jobs when you're creating all this extra work you don't need. So I'm big on it. I mean, it's how I went from, I was working 70, 80. I mean, I've had as much as I worked pretty much every waking hour. I mean, I never really had time off. And I did that for years and years when I was dino flipping. So we have a new name for it. Me and Delante developed a new name today. It was caveman flipping. Now we're calling it dino flipping, like dinosaur flipping, because eventually 3.5 years ago, I had to evolve, right? When I evolved and I decided I was going to work less hours, it forced me to create better systems. So a system that has 50 hours a week will find 50 hours a week to do it. But a system that gets 20 hours a week has to be better. Just think about it logically. It has to be better. So yeah, all we're really talking about with Robert is not to work less. We're just saying to work smarter. And then he might spend the next 20 hours a week, but he might use that additional 20 hours to work on his business versus working in his business. Growing. Maybe he'll be like, I'm going to do my rental portfolio. Maybe he'll just take up dancing. I don't know. We don't know. What's your thing? What is your thing? If you hit the lottery tomorrow and you're like, I don't have to work anymore, what would be your thing you could do, that one dream?
For me, it's more traveling. So if I hit the lottery tomorrow, that was one of the things that, my motivation for the whole doing the real estate thing is I want to travel, I want to see the world. So I want to take more vacations. And we started some of that process a little bit more than we've had in the past. So yeah, I would love to be at a point where, at least once a quarter I'm going on a vacation, or maybe twice a quarter at some point, to kind of see the world.
So my answer to that's going to be, right? If you want it, put it in the calendar now and then just make it happen, dude. Just build your business around it. It's not like I'd love to get to the point. You're at that point right now. Let's just get it on the calendar, dude. Let's talk and just figure it out. If you want 4 a year, book it out for a year, and then you'll build your business to accommodate the time that you want to spend. But if you wait until the time's right, one thing I can promise you, it'll never be right. It never is right. There's never a good time to do something different, right? To do something that you've always felt wasn't possible, other than right now. That's the only good time, is right now. So tonight, Robert's committing, and I've already texted his wife, and I'm telling her that you guys are going on 4 vacations. Now, she's got to figure it out because she has a job, right?
Well, she has her own company, so she has.
Oh, cool. So she can do it. She has freedom too. Awesome. So four vacations. You already got Disney off the record, and I feel like he probably spent his whole $75K he made at Disney. I've been to Disney, and I know what it's about. Yeah, man. It's
I was like, man, I'm gonna need another check after I left Disney. I'm like, this is not gonna work.
Disney is not, don't make that a habit, man. You'll go broke. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's like, I don't even know. Disney's like drugs for little kids.
Yeah, they had a good time though. I mean, that's what you
Okay.
ask for, kids to be happy. I'm really enjoying this space and just getting better and keep learning. I think, even at this level and for everybody out there that's trying to do their first flip or their second flip or whatever, I'm no superstar flipper. I'm still learning. I'm still making mistakes and just try to keep pushing through it though. I just believe in accountability for myself. It was a saying I used to look at all the time, and I put it in my office when I worked for McDonald's way back in the day. And it's a saying that says, grant me the serenity to accept the people I cannot change, and the wisdom to know that the person I can change is myself. And that's what I try to live by. Like, I can't change what other people do, but I can change what I do. And just try to get better every day and continue to learn and grow. So
it's powerful stuff, man. Thank you so much for all the great feedback, Robert. It's been fantastic. Thank you again for having you on the show. And Flip Factor Nation, the family out there, I appreciate you spending time. I know there's a lot of podcasts you can in. I want to thank everyone personally for all the, the reviews we've been getting, 5-star reviews. Everyone's been raving about the show. It means a lot to me. It's the reason that I have the energy to do this, and Robert and guys are willing to come on. So everyone, thank you so much for that. Thank you for listening and doing cool stuff. I'm Michael Green, and my work is done and your work has just begun. Thank you guys. Have a great weekend. See ya.